Hey everyone, this is Lomi, and today I'm going to be working on something special. My youngest sister just got her first ball-jointed doll, and she asked me to customize it for her. The head and body both came to my house. The head arrived first. It's a Soul Doll Kate, which I ordered through BJ Divas on my sister's behalf, since she was a minor at the time. The good news is this should be a quick and fun project. The bad news is her doll's body arrived the evening of Wednesday the 12th. And she's coming to get the doll on Friday the 14th, which means I'm gonna have to work fast. So I'll be making her some eyes, a wig, and giving her a face-up, as well as cleaning up the body. Fortunately, the person we bought the body from was super kind and included some clothes that fit, and I had some shoes that were the right size already, so there's no need for me to make any more than socks and underwear to go with the doll. So at about 9:15 on Thursday morning, I take the doll apart as much as I can and scrub her pieces with soap and a magic eraser. Her legs are so tight I can't get them apart by myself, so I keep her lower body put together while I scrub. As long as the elastic is allowed to dry completely, getting a doll wet is no problem. I position the legs so that there's plenty of air getting into the string channels while the doll dries. The elastic didn't get very wet in the first place, so it's no problem. The hands and bust have some traces of old blushing left on them, so I scrubbed those pieces with Winsor & Newton brush cleaner to remove it. These parts will get rinsed off and allowed to dry. Then I string her arms back up again. The string pulling tool I got from my friend Alicia is a little bit too big to fit through these tiny arms, so I use a bit of string to pull the elastic through instead. Before I put the torso back together, I put on my respirator and use a nail sanding block to sand out some chips in the doll's upper back. The resin here is really thin, so it's easy to chip, but it's also easy to sand and gently reshape. By the time all this is done, it's almost 10 a.m. Not too bad. I put the doll's head on the body, and then it's time to make a wig cap. I wrap the doll's head with plastic wrap, then put 2 layers of nylon material from pantyhose over the doll's head, strapping it down with rubber bands. I coat this material with PVA glue to create a hard cap. I don't want to waste any time while I wait for the glue to dry, so I put the doll aside and start on the eyes. I have a variety of paper irises I've designed and printed, and I sent photos of them to my sister. She circled the colors she liked best, so I'll use those for the eyes. I haven't cast any resin eye bases in a while, and I'm not sure how they'll turn out, But I decided to pour some bases for the flat irises anyway. But I have a lot of trouble getting my resin open. One side is so stuck I have to use tools to open it. But it doesn't look like the resin has crystallized yet, so hopefully this will be okay. I need to hurry and use this all while it's still good. While the bases cure, I cut out some iris chips. Just so I'm ready in case something goes wrong, I snapped together a few acrylic eyes from the DIY kits I have too. I put the eye chips into my resin eyes and paint them with clear nail polish to seal them against the UV resin I'll use to dome the corneas. The nail polish also makes a perfect glue for holding the pupils, so I put those in too. I put the eyes aside to dry and take a break for lunch because by 11 I'm starving. I get back to work a little after noon. By now the first layer of glue on the wig cap is dry, so I add another. It usually takes about 4 layers of glue for a cap that holds its shape well, but I don't know if I have time for that unless I do something different. So after the glue is on, I bust out my hairdryer and use it to rapidly cure the glue. That works out super fast. The heat makes the glue soft and flexible though, so while it's cooling off, I make some wefts for the top part. For this doll, I'm doing something different, and using human hair. Most of it will be from this ponytail, which is actually my sister's hair. I'll only need the lightest part off the end, so I cut that off and save the rest of the ponytail for something else. I'll be mixing this hair with some blonde that was donated by one of my stylist's clients, who was fascinated by the idea of having her hair turned into a doll wig. I've never used human hair for anything before, so this should be interesting. So I lay the hair on a piece of cellophane, add blonde for the highlights, and then glue the tops with some fabric fusion glue, which is waterproof and super flexible. This should make the wig easier to style later on, since I'll be able to get it wet. At 12:30, the wefts are all glued, so I'll put them aside and let them dry. By now the nail polish on the eye bases is dry, so I put on some Lisa Pavelka Magic Gloss and pop them into the UV lamp. Unfortunately, my Magic Gloss is about expired, and it's thickened up and seemed to be holding a lot of air, so I'm worried about more bubbles forming after I spent forever picking them out of the uncured resin, but we'll see how it goes. While the eyes cure, I grab the wig cap and mark where I want the hairline to sit. I trim off the excess material, remove the rubber bands, and peel out the plastic wrap, and then use itty-bitty scissors to cut the cap the size I want. It's still a little warm and feels softer than I want, but it's completely dry and there will be a lot more glue going on top, so I don't wait. I put a thick coat of fabric fusion glue on the wig cap and apply the hair directly. The cut-ins are uneven enough that I have to glue it on pretty high up, and the ends don't want to lay down on the wig cap, so I trim them a little shorter and glue down the ends afterward. Even though I've never used human hair, I already love it for doll wigs because it's so easy to manipulate, and it takes so little of it to get great coverage. My biggest challenge with alpaca wigs is bulkiness, so I'm looking forward to using more of this in experiments in the future. While that layer of glue dries, I get the eyes out of the UV lamp. Unfortunately, they did exactly what I was worried about, and there are lots of bubbles that have formed in these eyes. I won't have time to remake them, so it's a good thing the acrylic ones turned out so well. By now, it's time to go pick up my munchkin from kindergarten. After homework, playtime, and dinner, I finally get back to the wig, but by now it's almost 6:30. I figure I can start work on the wig and start the face-up after little Evie goes to bed. I added the second and third layers of hair on the wig, using the hairdryer to accelerate the drying of the glue. Then I put the wefts on top for the part. For the folded top part, I started by wetting down the weft to make it more stylable. I folded the hair over and clipped it down to give it shape and start training it. Then I glued it on top. But when I stopped at about 7:30, it had started raining really hard, so a face-up was out of the question. I can combat humidity, but I can't spray sealant when it's raining outside, and I can't run my air compressor after Evie's in bed. So all I've gotten in on this doll so far is 5 hours of work. I picked up the next day right after lunch, starting at 12:10. By that time, the wig had dried thoroughly, and it was humid out, but nothing I couldn't beat. So the first thing I did was finish styling the wig, using water to wet down the hair and a hairdryer and curling iron to start pressing down the wefts on top. In the future, I think I'll do the top part a different way with human hair. It stayed a little poofy on top because human hair is way more springy than I expected it would be. It lays fine on my head, but a doll's head is much smaller, so the physics are totally different. The last step for the wig was cutting a fringe across the front and then softening the edge with my blending shears. I cut it more than a 1/4 inch longer than it needed to be, which gave me more room to trim and shape. I'd rather cut long and have to work my way up, because if I cut too short, I couldn't fix it without starting over. All in all, I finished the wig at about 12:30, which left me with 5.5 hours invested in my sister's doll so far. The last step is going to be the face-up, but this video's getting long and my computer's starting to struggle with it, so I'll save that for the next installment. Thanks for joining me this time, and hope to see you in the second part. Bye!